Browns tight end David Njoku has another huge game on Thursday Night Football, but just how high should he be drafted in your dynasty leagues? All that and so much more in this episode of Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Madjuk. You can check her out on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. You can also follow her work at Behind the Steel Curtain and Pro Football Focus. Kate, we had actually kind of an exciting Thursday night football game with the Browns clinched a playoff spot. It was a lot of fun, but a lot of takeaways. We're going to talk about Breece Hall. We're going to talk about Jerome Ford at the end of the show. We're going to do our promotion commotion for your championship week. But I want to start with David Njoku, who had another huge game. It was 6 for 134. He had over 100 yards receiving in the first quarter alone in this game. What are we thinking about David Njoku after this awesome year that he's had?
Here's the thing, Marcus. I love David Njoku. And I think what we are actually seeing right now is all of the skills, all of the innate athleticism, strength, yards after the catch ability. Like, this dude's an absolute tank, and he moves like a wide receiver with it's so fun to watch him at his prime. But I think we're seeing it come to fruition for the first time because of who's passing him the ball. This is probably the best passing offense he's ever played in, literally throughout his career. And I am all in on David Njoku. I have always been a very big fan of David Njoku from a skills perspective, but situationally, I've always been a little bit skittish. And here's why, Marcus. So you look at, David Njoku, what he's done so far this season. How many games do you think he's had 6 or more targets from Joe Flacco?
Oh, I think
let's call it 8. Let's call it 8.
I'm pretty sure every game, right?
He's had 8 or more targets in 4 out of 5 games with Joe Flacco. In the only game that he didn't was week 13. He had 6. Okay.
Yep.
Let's look at his production and his target rate with Deshaun Watson. There have only been 2 career games that he has played with Deshaun Watson where he has had 8 or more targets in his career. And he's played a lot more games with Deshaun Watson here. He's had several games, 3 targets, 4 targets. He is not targeted as this team's primary receiving weapon. And let's be honest, with Deshaun Watson under center, this passing offense hasn't been as productive. So what happens when Joe Flacco goes away? You're obviously still left with the shell of a very, very talented tight end, but this team is handcuffed to Deshaun Watson. And that is my biggest concern with David Njoku. Not the talent, not anything else. It's Deshaun Watson and what happens when we go back to reality with this team, because it's going to happen. Financially, they can't afford not to.
Are we sure Joe Flacco's not going to be starting next year, Kate?
What?
I'm teasing. I'm actually not. I'm not that worried about it because you're right. Like, there wasn't a ton of targets early in the season, but it's also early in the season. Like, it takes some of these teams a while to figure out how to best use their players. I will say
he played with them last year.
He did, but Watson was a shell of himself. Those final 5-6 games.
Watson is still a shell of himself.
I know. I guess I'm just not that worried about it because he's gotten a lot of targets from quarterbacks not named Joe Flacco. Like in the Steeler game that he played, 15 targets from Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He got a bunch of targets from PJ Walker as well. We even saw
those are all backup quarterbacks, Marcus. They are going to go back to Deshaun Watson, and then what happens? He turns back into a pumpkin.
So I will say the last game that we saw with him playing with Deshaun Watson was against the Ravens. 9 targets, 6 catches for 58 yards. Not a huge game, but he was getting more involved in the offense. I just think he's too good of a player. And now that he's like officially broken out, I just feel like he's going to be really involved in the passing game going forward. And Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson will make sure they figure it out. I want to talk about his dynasty value, Kate, because that's the most interesting thing for me here. Without looking, where do you think David Njoku was being drafted among tight ends going into the month of December?
I feel like it was lower than it should have been. I want to say maybe tight end like 8 or 9.
So he's 27 years old, being drafted as tight end 16. Here are the tight ends ahead
And
of
just
him.
FYI, 27-year-old tight ends, that's a compliment. That is when these boys arrive, and that is in their prime.
Here's the tight ends that are being drafted ahead of him right now. Michael Mayer, Cole Kmet, Dallas Goedert, Pat Freiermuth, Luke Musgrave, Evan Ingram, Jake Ferguson, Kyle Pitts.
Ooh. Those are some names.
I think this is the time to buy, even after this huge December that he's had. Since week 10K, I'm looking at the numbers right here, averaging over 70 receiving yards per game and a half a touchdown. He's just, I mean, frankly, outside of Amari Cooper, he's the best player on this offense. And there's just so many times like last night where he bailed them out of bad situations. He's somebody that I want on my dynasty teams because again, at 27 years old, I still think he's getting better every single week. I'm comfortable going out and trading for David Njoku, and I have some trades that I'd like to run by you really quickly. All of these are standard tight end leagues, not tight end premium, but a 2024 second round pick.
Oh yeah,
okay,
sure.
We've got that one a couple of times. How about this one? A 2025 first round pick for Njoku and a 2024 third round pick.
In a non-tight end premium, a bit harder, but I guess if you can lock up the tight end position, that one I'm giving more pause, but I can see it.
Yeah. So the most common trade that we've seen from Dynasty League football is a second round pick. And frankly, I'm doing that all day. Like one of the things that I like to do in my Dynasty leagues is I like to basically spam the tight end position. I want as many of these kind of players between tight end 7 and tight end 16 and hoping one breaks out. You and I talked all offseason like, hey, go out and trade for Jake Ferguson. Go out and trade for Trey McBride because they're so cheap and they're going to be their tight end ones. And now you look at their value and both of those guys are like top 5, top 6 tight ends. I think what you need to do this offseason, go out and get David Njoku, grab a couple other guys, and I think you can kind of cobble together high-end tight end 1 production.
Yeah, I love that. I think, again, I think we need to talk about maybe this spamming the tight end position, like on a full dynasty strategy episode, because I do think that's probably an underrated strategy, especially for a position that's kind of it's hard to predict, it's hard to scout because it's so volatile, and I think that merits another episode maybe down the road. So don't forget to subscribe because I think we're going to have to hit on that topic here in the weeks to come.
All right, Kate, I want to talk about some of the running backs from last night, including Jerome Ford and Breece Hall, who I thought looked absolutely fantastic. Let's get to them next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have this many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or the resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is so quick and easy. They've even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making that process quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We wanted to let you know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, Kate, I want to talk about Breece Hall, but just really quickly before we get to him, Jerome Ford, 12 carries, 64 yards, also had 2 catches for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns in the passing game, including an unbelievable catch and run. Uh, what do you think about Jerome Ford going forward? Is he somebody that you're targeting this offseason or not really?
I think so. And Marcus, so looking at the situation, obviously Nick Chubb, he is the main guy. He has 1 year left on his contract with the Cleveland Browns. But I do want to talk about the fact that there might not be a better early season value in 2024. He has not had necessarily the most efficient season. I don't think I haven't been overly excited about starting him as of late because we've seen the carry totals kind of dwindle a little bit. Obviously, you have involvement from Kareem Hunt, etc. But last night, I think, was the most impressed I've been watching Jerome Ford all season long. The vision just looked, he was seeing the field very clearly. And I was so impressed with that. And I do think that, having that late end of season surge and displaying these qualities end of season, that sticks in these coaches' mind for the season to come. Now, obviously, Nick Chubb is going to be the guy if he is fully healthy, but I do think, obviously with the season-ending knee injury, this has not been the first time that right knee has sustained a major and serious knee injury. That is his second major season-ending injury on that same knee. He's going to be 29 years old next year. I think we have reasonable concerns that he might not come out and be ready to start the season. And if he is, they're probably going to take him pretty slow. He's aging. This is a very serious knee injury. I think that when you're looking at the potential for a RB2, just to start the season as they hopefully ramp Nick Chubb up, were you not impressed?
Yeah.
Because I just loved the fluidity with which he moved last night. And I think when I'm, if your season's over and you're looking to the future, it might be a good time to buy. And, as other people look toward Nick Chubb.
1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns this year. And he also has 42 receptions. I mean, that's high-end RB2 numbers, right? So yeah, and you don't have to pay that much of a price. He's being drafted as RB31 right now. Still has 2 years left on his contract beyond this year. I'm with you. I think there's a good chance that Nick Chubb, I think there's a decent chance that Nick Chubb doesn't come back next year and the Browns decide to move on because of how serious this injury is, because of the cap space. And maybe they draft somebody in round 3 or 4 to come in and compete with Jerome Ford. But yeah, I'm with you. Let's move on to Breece Hall because that's the one that I really wanted to talk about. 13 carries for 84 yards, also added in 9 carries for 42 yards in the receiving game and a touchdown. This has been somewhat of a lost season. Not somewhat. It has been a lost season for the Jets. However, I've been really impressed at what Breece Hall has done in the second half of the year. Kate, on the season, 1,400 yards, 8 touchdowns in 74 catches. I think what I've seen from the last 6 or 7 weeks has made me feel comfortable enough to go out and trade a lot of assets for Breece Hall, because if this is the floor, and I truly believe this is the floor with how bad this offense is, 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns in 16 games is pretty impressive.
Yeah, let's not forget, it's not like he's not a spring chicken at this point. He tore his ACL when he was 21 years old.
Yeah.
So still with now almost a full season under his belt, returning from that torn ACL, he is still only 22 years old. He will turn 23 in May. It doesn't have all of those carries on his body, obviously having missed most of his rookie season with that knee injury. He just is showing that burst that I think everybody was probably concerned that he wouldn't get back. Now, obviously, opened up the season in style. In week 1, it busted off an 80-yard house call, an 80-something yard house call. like you knew he had it, but then since then kind of tapered off in terms of that efficiency, which I think had some people concerned. But over the past 4 weeks has had 126 scrimmage yards and a touchdown in 3 of those 4 games. Just showing all of those qualities. You knew he had the burst, you knew he had the speed, you knew he had the ability as a receiver, and we're seeing all of those qualities on display even in some lost moments here. I mean, Breece Hall, like they've cleared out the backfield a bit. Michael Carter no longer there. Dalvin Cook, I like
Didn't play
this.
yesterday. Didn't play.
This is going to be Breece Hall's backfield, and
Yep.
obviously with the presumed return of Aaron Rodgers, like this is going to be an offense that is going to score a lot of points here.
And I gotta believe that the Jets are going to have, I think it was a top 5, top 6 pick this year. I've got to believe that's going to be going to their offensive line. And I
Yes.
know one offensive lineman doesn't solve their issues, but it does feel like the Jets are going to try to rebuild that unit. I'm kind of all in. He looked amazing last night, Kate. Like some of the moves that he was making some of the Browns defenders just look absolutely silly. And I agree with you. Like for him to post 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns in this season, with how bad this offense has been, with how bad they've been at just sustaining drives. I saw a stat yesterday on the year. He has 1 touch inside the 5-yard line.
That's absolutely bonkers for a guy that scored 8 touchdowns.
And even if Aaron Rodgers is semi-washed next year, I think could Aaron Rodgers be like the 15th best quarterback in the league? And all of a sudden, Breece Hall gets 12 touches inside the 5-yard line, 15, and now he's scoring 16 touchdowns. Absolutely. So I'm good with trading for Breece Hall. I wanted to run through some trades from Dynasty League football. We haven't had a bunch because it's kind of hard to trade for Breece Hall because he's valued so highly. But one of the
RB4 and Dynasty startups, by the way,
Yes.
in the month of December.
One of the most common trades that we have seen, or a version of a trade, is Christian McCaffrey for Breece Hall and X. And typically X is like a 3rd round pick or a couple later round picks. There was one that was completed a couple weeks ago that was Breece Hall and Rashee Rice for Christian McCaffrey. Would you be okay moving McCaffrey to get somebody younger like Breece Hall, who's just not quite as productive?
Absolutely. If I can get or if I can sell my Christian McCaffrey share for Breece Hall plus Rashee Rice, consider it done tenfold. Like that
Here's another
wouldn't
one
be
for
a
you.
question.
Christian McCaffrey for Breece Hall and a 2024 2nd round pick.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. All right. Here's a couple more. We have Breece Hall for Jonathan Taylor, a 2024 2nd, 4th, and 5th round pick.
Yeah, I'll take Breece Hall.
I would rather have Breece Hall there as well. We'll run through a couple more. I've got several that I wanted your thoughts on. Breece Hall for Jordan Addison, a 2024 1st round pick, and Michael Wilson.
Breece Hall.
Okay. Breece Hall for Josh Downs and 2 2025 1st round picks.
Breece Hall.
Okay, last one. And this one's really interesting to me. This is a tight end premium league. Breece Hall and Cade Otton for Bijan Robinson.
I'll take Breece Hall and Cade Otton easily.
That one's tougher. I think I would lean Bijan there just because he's a little bit younger. That you're kind of scaling back the rookie contract 1 more year, and actually really 2 more years because Bijan has that 5th year option. I think I would go Bijan there, but it's close.
It's close enough. And in a tight end premium league, again, we kind of just alluded to that fact of collecting all of these mid-tier tight ends. I do consider Cade Otton out of that mid-tier, but
Yep, I agree.
again, like could be one of these guys that ends up sparking that offense, especially as they have some, Mike Evans gets older and like, I don't know. I think it's fine to collect a dart throw. And again, Breece Hall, I get wanting that extra year on your rookie contract, but I would say from a standpoint of where I'm looking at things right now, I don't expect Arthur Smith to be involved through the rest of his rookie contract. But like obviously Bijan has a higher upside, but he's competing with, I think, a lot more assets in the offense there. I think Breece Hall has a better chance to be. Maybe I'm close. Like maybe these guys are back to back in my
Well,
dynasty rankings. I need to do an update this
well,
week. And
that's what I was going to ask you, Kate. Like, is it, in your opinion, is it a pretty clear top four between Breece Hall, again, not in order, Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, and Jahmyr Gibbs, and then there's a big tier drop off after that?
yeah, I think
Okay.
that's fair.
I think I'm with you. Well, I think this offseason, we're going to have to really dive into these running back tiers because after those top four, it gets real wonky. But
It's messy and sloppy,
yes,
and
that's for another time. That's for another time. Kate, let's do promotion commotion for your championship weekend. Players to promote from your bench into your starting lineups in week 17. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. Did the game go to timeout? Time to order in with DoorDash. Is it halftime? That is ordering in time. 2-minute warning. You got it. That is your cue to order in. Whenever the game clock stops, it's time to order in with DoorDash. There's no reason to root for your favorite team on an empty stomach. Order on DoorDash and save on all of your football watch party favorites. Order pizza, wings, sodas, burgers, or even just buns on DoorDash and get it all delivered without missing the game. We've got football on Saturday night. We've got football on Sunday. We've got the college football playoffs on Monday. It sounds like a great time just to sit on your couch, order DoorDash, and enjoy football. Get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter promo code LOCK23, subject to change, terms apply. Again, that is 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter promo code LOCK23, subject to change, terms apply. We want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That is $150 if your team wins. I would suggest picking the 49ers this week, playing the Washington Commanders. Pretty sure the Niners are going to win that one. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. You can go bet on the futures market. Go bet on who you think is going to win MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, Joe Flacco. Visit FanDuel.com/lockdown and kick off the NFL season with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. All right, Kate, best part of the week. It's promotion commotion. Players that we are promoting from our bench into our starting lineups in week 17. Who do you got?
All right, Marcus, I'm going to go with a little bit of a double dip here. You guys want stacks? You've got stacks, baby, because we're stacking quarterback Derek Carr. I can't believe I'm actually saying it. We're stacking Derek Carr with
Your guy,
wide
Derek Carr.
receiver Rashid Shaheed. Yeah, for any new listeners to Locked On Dynasty, haven't always been the biggest Derek Carr fan, but man, this dude's been absolutely on fire with a connection to said wide receiver Rashid Shaheed, especially deep downfield, which has been a absolute nightmare for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary to cover. They've already been, loosey-goosey. They got Carlton Davis that might miss this week with a concussion, and they've already struggled to cover on deep throws of 20-plus air yards. Now you have Rashid Shaheed, who literally ranks third among all wide receivers in receiving yards on such targets. Go for that stack. I think this could be a really plus matchup. You have Derek Carr, who's also somehow produced back-to-back top 10 weeks as a fantasy quarterback. You have Rashid Shaheed, who, when you look at the top scoring weeks for various Saints wide receivers, Rashid Shaheed actually ranks has 4 of those top 6 weeks out of all the Saints performances this week or this entire season. Like, this could be a really interesting high upside stack, I think, in a must-win game for this Saints offense.
I'm going to go quarterbacks. There's a lot of quarterbacks out there that you can play this week between Easton Stick, Jacoby Brissett, Jared Hall, Jarrett Stidham, Tyrod Taylor, Aiden O'Connell, Bailey Zappi. Taylor Heineke. If you want like a low-end quarterback this week, there's plenty of options out there but I'm taking your guy, Mason Rudolph, who had a huge
Hey.
game last week against the Bengals, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns. They play at Seattle this week. Seattle's secondary, not great. They've also got a bunch of injuries. They've also don't really have a pass rush. So I think this is a game in which Pittsburgh is going to be airing the ball out a lot. I also think Seattle could potentially put a little bit of pressure on their offense. I think Seattle's going to score some points in this game as well. I just think you're going to see the Steelers, instead of trying to turtle on the road, I think you're going to see them air it out a little bit. And I've got no problem starting and playing Mason Rudolph as a high-end QB2 in your super flex leagues.
What a year to be alive. I'm going to close this out with an equally gross name. Let's talk about tight end Gerald Everett of the Los Angeles Chargers, who, again, Los Angeles Chargers, I know nobody really wants to put a ton of stock in this team offensively, but maybe you lost TJ Hawkinson for the year. Maybe you're in need of a streamer. And look, Gerald Everett, over the past 4 weeks, he's been super involved as a receiver. He's had 8 or more targets in each of the last 3 games. He has been, Easton Stick's top target. And now might even see more work. You have Keenan Allen still not practicing with a heel injury. You have Joshua Palmer, who's dealing with a concussion. He missed practice both Wednesday and Thursday. We might see Gerald Everett get like 10 plus targets in this game, and they'll be taking on the Denver Broncos, whose 40.5% defensive success rate on targets to the tight end position ranks second lowest in the league, giving up a league high 0.41 EPA per dropback, which again, on those targets to tight ends, like there are points to be scored in the past, 8 weeks, giving up a league high, nearly 15 fantasy points per game to tight ends. Like this could be a huge day for Gerald Everett, both in terms of volume, and it's a great matchup.
100% agree. Should be a wild championship week. I cannot
Good
wait.
luck,
Yeah.
y'all. I'm
Good
so
luck,
excited.
everybody. If you've made it this far, congratulations. Go check out our podcast on YouTube. We post videos every single day over there. Go check out the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Go follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Modjuk. Go check out her fantastic work at Pro Football Focus and Behind the Steel Curtain. I'm at Marcus_Mosier. Enjoy this wild weekend of football. Enjoy your New Year's, and we will see you right back here next week, breaking it all down.